All right, damn. Welcome back. Damn. So today we had this little video called "The Sad Story of the Smartest Man Who Ever Lived." I mean, never heard of this story. You know, I saw this guy in the thumbnail. Never seen his face before, but whatever. Let's go. Let's go ahead and check this out. Sorry, but yeah.
On July 13, 1944, William James Sidis's landlord found him unconscious in a small Boston boarding house. He had suffered a massive stroke.
Okay, so that's his name and that's his face. Any of you guys ever heard of him? I can't lie, he does look kind of smart. You know what I mean? I don't know.
And lay dying. William may have been the smartest person who ever lived. His IQ was somewhere between 250 and 300. To put that in perspective, Einstein's was estimated to be 200.
Bro.
William's parents were brilliant Ukrainian Jewish immigrants. Boris Sidis was a renowned psychologist. Sarah
What is
Sidis
your
went to
IQ?
medical school at a time when
If you're
few
watching
women
this
did.
video,
William, or Billy as he was known, learned the alphabet.
I don't know
and
what his
Boris
mine- I
Sidis
don't know
was
what
a
mine
renowned
is, but whatever.
psychologist. Sarah Sidis went to medical school at a time when few women did. William, or Billy as he was known, learned the alphabet by 6 months of age. At 18 months, he could read the New York Times.
what?
He enrolled at Harvard University at age 11. When he graduated, William told reporters he intended to live the perfect life,
The
but
perfect
that would not come
life.
to be. William James Sidis was born on April Fool's Day, 1898, in New York City. Violent anti-Semitic
was a joke
attacks
from
in
the start.
Ukraine, which was then part of the Russian Empire, drove his parents to the Promised Land, where they met when Boris tutored Sarah in English. She encouraged him to go to Harvard, where he studied psychology and used some of his psychological principles to help mold his son. He said, "You know the old saying, as the twig is bent, the tree's inclined. Parents cannot too soon begin the work of bending the minds of their children in the right direction." William's parents attributed his extraordinary intelligence not to genes, but to his upbringing. They treated him like an adult. When
Damn.
he was a few months old, William's parents placed food and a spoon in front of him. They let him observe, and he learned to feed himself. His mum recalled,
Yes,
he
sir.
squealed with delight. No one had taught him. He had reasoned it out. This
Reasoned it
natural way
out.
of reasoning is also how his parents taught him to spell. Instead of learning through memorization, William learned to spell by focusing on the underlying patterns and structures. For example, if he learned the word bat using letter blocks, then he understood that modifying the word by, say, swapping out the A for an E would form a new word with a different meaning. In the way that he learned to
Bruh.
spell, William
Yeah,
learned
that's
8
true.
languages by the age of 8, by understanding the
8?
fundamental principles of language structure. Besides English, he knew Latin, Greek, German, Russian, Hebrew, Turkish, French, and Armenian. He even invented his own language as a child, Vendergut, which
Whoa,
drew
whoa,
on
whoa, whoa,
European
whoa, whoa,
influences.
whoa, whoa, whoa. That just sounds fake. I'm not gonna lie to you.
German, Russian,
Not even hating.
Hebrew,
This sounds
Turkish,
fake.
French, and Armenian. He even invented his own language as a child, Vendergut, which drew on European influences. Instead of reading him fairy tales at bedtime, his parents read him Greek myths, which helped him learn about the planets. Jupiter is named after the Roman god Jupiter, which is adapted from Zeus in Greek mythology. Every moment was an opportunity to learn. William had no desire for or interest in playing with toys. He didn't play sports or any games at recess. His father thought such childish pursuits were silly and meaningless. William also had a tremendous fear of dogs. Good girl. Good girl. His only
That's
enjoyment
crazy,
was
bro.
riding on streetcars when his parents took him to museums, libraries, parks, and zoos.
It's crazy. They molded this dude out the womb, literally, bro. Literally, I mean, he was gifted and molded straight out the womb, bro.
He collected 1,600 streetcar transfers by the time he was in his 20s. William ended up finishing elementary school in less than 1 year, and high school in 6 weeks. His mom remarked, the newspapers never missed a chance to try and prove that he was insane, or psychotic, or simply a freak.
Dude
In
was
truth,
gifted.
Billy was a completely normal child in every respect. The media attention followed him to Harvard, where they portrayed him as a know-it-all, like in this New Yorker cartoon where he's lecturing to a group of men. After entering Harvard at age 11, he gave a lecture to the math club about the fourth dimension, which is an extension beyond the 3D space we experience. Here he's talking about shapes with many sides in the fourth dimension, which demonstrates his astounding ability to comprehend complex mathematical concepts beyond his years. A professor at MIT who attended the lecture proclaimed, "I predict that young Sidis will be a great astronomical mathematician." Yet, this never happened. In fact, he would grow to resent mathematics. Shortly after the lecture, he fell ill, which made all the news. The media reported that he had suffered a mental breakdown, which was a rumor that...
too much learning, I guess, too much power, too much learning, and there, his head just, whatever.
Dogged him his entire life.
Was about to explode, whatever.
He did live with his family on an estate in New Hampshire that was also the grounds of the sanatorium Boris was running. William only returned to Harvard several months later and never fit in. His biographer, Amy Wallace, described how he was, quote, "a complete freak in the eyes of his fellow students. He had none of the social graces, no interest in sports or girls, and was several years younger." When he graduated from Harvard, he told reporters, "I want to live the perfect life. The only way to live the perfect life is to live it in seclusion. I've always hated crowds." His idea of the perfect life is described in a paper he wrote about a utopian society called Hesperia. Hesperia's constitution began with "We the people," reminiscent of the US Constitution. But that is where the similarities end. In Hesperia, those who want citizenship have to pass an intelligence test. Marriage is forbidden, while polygamy is completely legal. Interestingly, children are not raised by their biological parents, and instead, male children shall be assigned to the charge of male guardians and female children to the charge of female guardians. He rejected the influence of his parents, particularly that of his domineering mother.
Damn.
After leaving Harvard, he took up a position teaching mathematics at Rice Institute, now Rice University in Houston. He was 17 years old. Just like at Harvard, William didn't fit in at Rice. Students teased him for never having kissed a girl. Girls faked crushes on him as a joke. He stayed at Rice for only 8 months, and then enrolled at Harvard Law School in the fall of 1916. Then, for some unknown reason, he quit in his last semester. His mother was furious and would tell people that her son left his studies because Harvard Law had shut down due to World War I, which was not true. William was very much anti-war. He refused to register for the draft and nearly went to prison if it weren't for the armistice of 1918 that ended the First World War.
Yeah.
He was extremely passionate about politics. He was briefly jailed after leading a May Day rally in Boston, an anti-war workers' rights rally organized by the socialists that turned violent. He rebelled against the capitalist system that propelled his parents from their status as poor immigrants to a position of success in American society. While in jail, he met and fell head over heels for Martha Foley, a 20-year-old Irish girl who grew up in Boston. Despite telling the Boston Herald earlier that he vowed to remain celibate, he met and fell head over heels for Martha Foley, a 20-year-old Irish girl who grew up in Boston. Despite telling the Boston Herald earlier that he vowed to remain celibate, saying, "Women do not appeal to me." After the arrest, he followed Martha to New York. They kissed, but Martha assured him there would be nothing more. William's unrequited love may have affected the trajectory of his life. William's friend Julius Eichel said, Sidis admitted that her love might have achieved wonders with him. He carried a photograph of her in his pocket until the day he died. Martha went on to marry a writer and achieved notoriety for co-founding the literary magazine Story. When her memoirs were published, she briefly mentioned William in a single line, in which she called him the famous and tragic prodigy who was the first boy ever to pay court to me. Despite his brilliance, William failed to achieve greatness, and any work that did show promise was overlooked. In 1925, he published a book that challenged the second law of thermodynamics, the principle that the universe is headed toward heat death, where all energy is evenly spread out, so there won't be any energy left to power any processes. In this state, nothing will move, change, or live. In The Animate and the Inanimate, he explored the possibility of reversing the universe's direction. He theorized that living things could tap into a hidden source of energy to counteract the process. He gave an example of a ball bouncing down the stairs, which, when played in reverse, appears as if a hidden source of energy is pushing the ball up the stairs. He did acknowledge that his work was speculative and his theory has never been proven, but it was never taken seriously in the first place. It was ignored. There wasn't a single review during its time. He made headlines for being a boy prodigy and for his private life, yet no one paid attention to his academic work. He stopped writing about physics, math, and cosmology altogether. While in New York, he took on menial jobs, including working as an operator at an office that was using an early mechanical calculator called a comptometer. The papers were all too keen to splash the headlines about the boy wonder earning an average wage of $23 a week. He hid his genius from his coworkers. When they found out who he was, he'd move on to the next job. He refused to accept higher paying work in which he had to use his intellect. Once, he was offered a job with a railway company who tried to put him to work solving their technical problems. One of the officials later found him crying. William told him he couldn't bear the thought of doing math. Another time, a cousin needed his math skills to help solve a dental problem.
I wonder what's the cost for all this.
He offered William $3,000, the equivalent of $55,000 today. It would have taken him 2 hours to solve, but he refused. William's biographer concludes he could not take a job of complex figuring without risking emotional and physical illness. His entire life had been defined.
That's crazy. I mean, hey, like when we think about the cause of this, could you guys think that this could have something to do with how all this knowledge was just ingrained into him when he was younger, and then out of nowhere it kind of like just blew him up. I don't know if I'm using the right words here, but I don't know. Maybe you guys get what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
By pressure to perform at a high level, at the expense of mastering basic life skills. He confessed to an aunt that he had never been taught to tie his shoelaces. His parents may have provided him with an exceptional education, yet they failed to teach him the basics of grooming. He didn't shave regularly, wore a worn-out cap. He reportedly didn't bathe, or at least not often, and the stench was said to be brutal. When his father suffered a stroke and died in October 1923, he never attended the funeral. According to William's biographer, the reason was that he refused to see his mom. William hated that she dominated him as a child. The Sidises didn't raise their other child with the same intensity. William's younger sister Helena did not get a formal elementary or high school education. Helena said that her father had become so fed up with William that he didn't want to educate her. She was also seriously ill as a child. Nonetheless, she thrived under the guidance of her brother, who taught her how to read and write, and she passed the entrance exams to attend university. In his 30s, William settled in Boston, again doing menial jobs. The media had a heyday when they found out he was working as a lowly office clerk. An unflattering article in a Boston daily newspaper read, William J. Sidis, now 39, was once declared by a group of eminent scientists to be a coming innovator in the field of science, with potentialities as great as Einstein and as brilliant as Marconi. Yet yesterday, a Sunday Advertiser writer found him in a small room, wallpapered and dark, where for the past 5 years he has lived unknown, unsung, uncaring. His health had also started to decline. He was overweight and had high blood pressure, which eventually caused a stroke, the kind that claimed
it's definitely the mental health in there.
On July 17, 1944, William James Sidis died of a cerebral hemorrhage which led to pneumonia. He was 46 years old.
Damn.
He was buried beside his father in New Hampshire. William didn't achieve the level of success or prominence expected of someone so brilliant. Was it because his parents pushed him too far? A faculty member at Rice University, where William briefly taught, disagreed. Dr. Gerard believes he was the victim not of intensive education given by his father, nor of the romantic curse called genius, but of the thoughtless cruelty of the public. The New York Times once excitedly described William as a wonderfully successful result of a scientific forcing experiment, and as such furnishes one of the most interesting mental phenomena in history. As we now know, early success did not guarantee a fulfilling and successful life.
No, I didn't.
If William had a different upbringing, the outcome of his life might have been entirely different.
Hey, damn, this story, never heard of that, I guess it's interesting, you know. Like they treated this dude, you know, way more like a machine than an actual human, you know, growing up, and I think that right there kind of fucked him up. But yeah, you guys, let me know what you think about this down there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.